He likely would have like tried to like drop down the stairs. Good job. You're looking at the red stain. You're not making any choices until you see where the killer's red light is at. And that's really good. I can't fault the killer for playing this particular way. Yeah, that's primarily, that is just incredibly unfortunate. Oi, YouTube, welcome back to another video. I hope you've unclenched your jaw and had some water today. We are going to be taking a gameplay review look at a survivor match. We don't get sent many survivor matches. We're going to go ahead and dive in. This is Zyvon from our community playing Michaela against a doctor on the game. It is a rather short match. We're going to try to dissect what maybe could have gone on better and maybe what needs to happen more often so that you could survive through more matches, because playing survivor is undoubtedly hard when your team gets in your own way. So, I think the first thing I would say is, like, the instinct is good, right? When Doc starts to shock, you really want to, try to throw the pallet early in some scenarios here. What I'm going to go ahead and say, I mean, this isn't going to be the biggest deal, but I think you could have just ran this circle for a second. Or, when Doc starts to shock, you could just sort of hold W, right? So you could have held W sort of around this sort of container to the side. So this is that container, this is the other one, this is coincidentally the stairs, and then this is like where you are now with like the pallet. When he's starting to shock from around here, you maybe could have like ran back this way and tried to play this a little bit. He likely would have like tried to like drop down the stairs, and then you could have like doubled back and wasted a little bit more time. I don't think you needed to throw the pallet this early. I think the instinct when Doc starts to shock is people go, pre-throw. And Docs want you to pre-throw in a lot of scenarios. So I think you could have avoided your first hit a little soon, but I mean, it is what it is. Good job realizing that you have this pallet here. This is like one of the better pallets in the game. You can usually get like 2 good loops on it. So I think I would have made another loop around that pallet. It's hard to say because when Doc has to shock, he slows down. So before he could have got the shock out, I think you could have been at the end of these tables here, and I think that you could have kept running it. Remember that when Doc is shocking, he slows down, right? So I think you could have been more efficient here. I don't think you needed to double back for this. Really tough to say. That I'm gonna say in my pocket you could have made like another loop, but good double back fake. So here's one thing. I think, this is tough. It is Doc, right? So Doc could shock you so that you can't vault the pallet, and then he gets stuck. I think that you could have kept looping this, because you see he doubles back, right? And I think you tried to double back fake him. He starts to double back. I think you could have kept looping this one particular pallet at least a little bit longer. Not the end of the world, but be aware, like, keep using your resources if you got them. You know what I mean? All right, this is a good shift W moment. Okay. Good job. You're looking at the red stain. You're not making any choices until you see where the killer's red light is at. And that's really good. You don't really want to just like start making impulse decisions and find yourself caught way out. You're wasting a lot of time. I'm actually concerned that not a single generator has sort of popped yet, which means that nobody is doubled up on gens. It's a pretty good vault. He caught that coming. You're kind of at a spot with LT walls. At some point, the killer kind of will get you. But you wasted a good amount of time. 1 gen done, 2 people were on it. So, okay. Not the end of the world. Good hook. Where are your teammates at? So, 1 person shocks. David over there. So, there's a few things I think I would have done if I were you personally to sort of, mitigate what happened a little bit. Okay, Doc's playing a little pseudo-campy. So he hit David, still sort of camping a little bit. At this point, when I see killers like this, I can't really say a lot, right? Because you know, based on like people like Darva, right, who has made a video on like, you know, whoever plays the hardest or nastiest usually wins. You know, when you see stuff like that and you see camping as a means to justify like that sort of stuff, it's hard to dispute that, right? Killer creating an advantage. Now, at this point, you just got off hook. I know you want to go back and think your flashlight saved Jesus right now. That's probably like a little bit of a mistake to just be like, you don't have D-Strike, right? You have no protections. You have no Dead Hard. So you have to figure out what's worth it, right? Do you bring Dead Hard D-Strike so you can like make flashlight plays and be super unsafe but bounce back? Or do you want to die really, really early, right? Like you have to sort of make that choice. That seems like a tough one. So Bill is going to go back on the hook. Yeah, I think you should have just made distance here instead of handing him a license to tunnel you out. All right, Bill on the hook. Yeah, when it comes to stuff like this, I don't know that I can blame killers necessarily for like sort of tunneling. He's getting closer. Sounds like he's maybe following your trail a bit. Maybe he's camping. No. He's chasing David. Okay. So I think on Gideon, and like any multi-level map, when you don't see the killer, but you hear the terror radius, you should be very scared of dropping down because you could just drop right into them, right? So if he's not on the same floor as you, you kind of have to assume like you're panning, you're not seeing him. I wouldn't just drop into this. The likelihood of you dropping right into an M1 was like not insignificant, right? Let's see. He's not gonna. Is he gonna leave David alone, or is he picking? Okay, he's gonna pick David up. So at this point, you got to go for the unhook. Somebody's got to go for the unhook. And without Kindred, there's no way to know who. Okay, so the unhook is happening. So at this point, man, the David's already on hook. You guys do not have time to sit, reset, and heal. So the best thing for anyone to do is go their completely separate ways. And it looks like Doc is on you. And this is what I always say is like smart playing, right? Hook one person, go to the other. Hook another person, right? So like hook you, hook David, and then come back to you to put you on stage 2. At a high level of MMR, this is exactly how I would ordinarily play. I think you could have played this probably 110% better. You only looked one direction. What you can do in this exact scenario is to like go here and peek this whole hallway as well. That way, if you see him committing to this, you get way out in front of it. And, you know, or the opposite can happen is you could just throw this pallet and say, I would say this pallet is genuinely stronger and safer. But yeah, it kind of sucks to see one of those pallets go so soon. But at the end of the day, it's like you're on second hook, you're near a basement. What are you going to do? He does have like a wasted shock, I guess. So you get a little bit of distance here. You have really solid pallet. Yeah, this is such a great set of pallets here. These pallets are always... No, but you left them. Okay. Yeah, he got what he wanted. So what I would do there, and that's a really tight situation. That's like a moment of panic. What I would 100% do there is 1, audio, 2, lower the camera. So drop it down so you can see this horizon a bit better. Or simultaneously, like, I don't see him here and I don't think he's here. So I would go like out to the corner. So typically on like an item like this, right? So there's like these 2 shelves, if you will, right? That's a huge representation. But like right here's the pallet. If the killer is kind of standing here in the middle, I think, I don't know, it is a catch-22. I think you could slowly sneak your way over here, take a peek. Oh, they're not here. Obviously the red stain is on you, right? Because of his add-ons. So... it's a catch-22. I'm not really worried about so much you camping the pallet so much as like you didn't put yourself in a position to be able to see him coming. If you had, instead of camping at the pallet or standing at the pallet, if you had maybe stood at the far corner, you'd have a better line of sight on what he's doing, and then could maybe have gotten away. Simultaneously, your stronger pallets were over here, and I would always use those before I would use anything else, really. There's on Gideon specifically, there are a handful of pallets that are just not great. Like Gideon has a ton of pallets. A lot of them are not great, but a few of them are very good. So this room over here actually has 2 solid pallets and 1 window, and this is like a not great pallet. So I think that's just more of like a learning experience, something that you kind of gather over time. So far, it's really small mistakes. I can't fault the killer for playing this particular way, because it's just the nature of DVD, right? Killer doesn't have really enough time to go around and hook all 4 people. It's not realistic to expect them to do so. I'm actually more concerned that your teammates are all like so greedy and so close. And 2 gens done's honestly not bad for 3 hook states. That bill is something of Satan's creation. And he's feeding. Okay, so 1, remember where your good pallets are, right? So you just got downed over here. Your good pallets are in this corner. The last thing you would be doing when you get unhooked is running at the killer or running to like the no safe. There's like nothing out here for at least a good second, right? Even though you do have BT. Yeah, this bill is feeding this killer really solid stuff though, because Doc was able to hook you and then hook Bill. And then hook you, and he could hook Bill. Yeah, so I think the big mistake here was not getting to a stronger pallet sooner. This was kind of just a case of not knowing where you need to be. I think because as this Doc has demonstrated, he's not the biggest fan of like tunneling per se, right? He pressured you earlier when you got unhooked, and then when he downed you, after he downed the Bill, he came after you. You dropped the pallet. And he was like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to go get the Bill, cut my losses. I think if you had made that scenario happen again, he would have let you go again. Yeah, that's primarily, that is just incredibly unfortunate. Very bold of him to pick you up and hook you again. So this is the thing. I can't really fault a lot of your plays. A lot of your plays aren't like colossal mistakes. I don't see anything where I'm like, oh my God, you completely effed up. I think there are moments that could have saved you. I think that if you'd gotten to safer pallets sooner, right? That's a mental thing. That's a paying attention thing. You literally have windows of opportunity. So I think that option is there. Your camera literally just did not pan to see that those options were there. And it takes map memorization, right? Running all the way through no man's land to get to this pallet was probably not the play. Would that have saved you in any sort of permanence? Not inherently, right? And I think that throwing pallets a little too early, perhaps, maybe maybe you're dancing with the devil to play a little bit more elongated like that. But at the end of the day, I will say, like, I can't really blame the killer, right? When I play at a higher level MMR, if you don't sort of play like this, you don't get a W, right? If you don't bounce back and forth between survivors, it's just sort of the nature of the beast at a higher level of play. Now, a lot of people would say he's not at a higher level of play. Not yet, right? But when you watch people like Otstarva or Scott or whatever, and you hear them say, you have to focus on getting two survivors back and forth. Hook one, hook the other. Second stage, bah. And you got to get somebody out of the game. It's kind of the nature of the beast. Until you hone up those abilities a little bit more. The thing I could recommend is a more selfish build. Right now, your build is Windows of Opportunity is good. I'm really not sure why you're running that Ace perk and why you're running, I can't remember the name of that, Streetwise. I think that's Ace in the Hole. I don't know why you're running those two. I wouldn't run those two. Like, Ace in the Hole is not really helping you do anything, right? Ace in the Hole will help you get some better add-ons out of a chest. You help you Kobe, maybe. It's not really, Streetwise, again, not really worth it. In my opinion, if you are going to be solo queuing, right? Kindred, Decisive Strike, right? Dead Hard. These things, I know as survivors, we don't like to talk about playing as the meta or endorsing a meta. I understand that metas are stale. However, they exist for a very prominent reason. And if you're playing solo, I would play maybe more selfishly with regards to perks. Other than that, I think at the end of the day, you kind of have to realize, what are you going for? If you're going to be the guy that's hanging around for flashlight saves, expect to get bopped on the head. Because the build you have now kind of puts you in a position to rely on other survivors. You have to have them heal you, or otherwise you're perpetually injured, right? You don't have a boon, you don't have self-care, you don't have inner strength, you don't have anything like that that's going to allow you to stand on your own 2 feet. You're very other player reliant. And, you know, for better or for worse, sometimes that pans out and your other players are great. And then other times you get this Bill who thinks he has borrowed time, and that allows him to just get these greedy unhooks. I guess the last thing I'll say on this has nothing to do with you as a player and more to do with that Bill. If you guys are running borrowed time, that does not excuse you from making awful plays like that. The 2 unhooks exhibited in this match were absolutely unnecessary. So unnecessary, in fact, that the Bill went down making them, right? One, as a doc, he's gonna do a static blast. He's gonna find you, right? Unless you're in a locker. People have 60 seconds to sit on a hook. So there's no need for you to immediately get the unhook. The second fact that Bill just ran right at the killer is insane, right? So if you have borrowed time is not an excuse for you to make greedy plays like this at all. Borrowed time is meant as a contingency plan, not a thing that's a default at all. Y'all too greedy, right? Other survivors, I'm looking at you. Y'all too greedy, right? You absolutely need to wait. Be more patient. Get on a gen. Everybody needs to be on gens. Nobody needs to be at the hook waiting for the killer to hook somebody, right? And that's something that I think I want to like really point out here. Nobody should be near the hook waiting for the killer to walk away. Colossal waste of 10, 15 seconds, right? And there's no need for an unhook to happen that quickly. If there's 60 seconds of a hook state left, work on a gen. Make the killer leave, right? Force the killer to think, okay, I'm not getting anything else unless I walk away from here. And then come for the unhook, right? If the killer doesn't walk away, okay, then you got to make some plays happen, and that's fine. But and that was the case, I guess, in the second, you know, in the first unhook, the Bill definitely sort of just got caught, and that is what it is. But be more careful. In terms of our player here, I think a slightly more selfish build and a little bit more looping prowess with regards to just knowing where you need to be, where the strong tiles are, where the strong pallets are, and maybe just a little bit more selfishness, right? To help yourself. If you're swiffing with your friends, right, it's a little different. One of you can bring Circle of Healing, or you could just trust each other. But when you're running solo, you have to expect that if you're not running a selfish build, you get left in the dust. And that's unfortunate. So thank you guys for coming in this far. Let me know down in the comments below if you made it this far into the video. I appreciate you guys. Let me know if there's anything that you found in this video to be particularly helpful. And if you have questions about anything else, if you guys want to submit a video to Discord, obviously join our Discord, submit a video to YouTube, and we'll review it. And of course, unclench your jaw, get your water, take your medication if you haven't. I'll be praying to the entity to see you guys in the next review, the next video.